If I was preparing for the UCAT in 2026, this is exactly what I would do because things are always changing, things are getting more competitive, and people's strategies are constantly evolving. So I started the UCAT in 2020, and there would be some differences I would make if I was sitting it next year compared to now 5 years ago. So let's talk about how you can get a score above 2,400, how you can get into the 99th percentile, and you can be confident that you'll get an interview wherever you like, and you can then relax a little bit when it comes to your ATAR, not having that pressure on yourself. All right, so the first major question to address is how long should I prepare for? There's no rigid answer for this. I've definitely seen people prepare for as little as 3 months and score in the 99th percentile. Some people will practice for 2 years. And so wherever you sit on that spectrum depends on what sort of risk you want to take, how smart you are as a baseline, and how much practice you're going to put in. I think for most people, the sweet spot is between 8 to 12 months. I think after you've done your year 11 exams, you have that holidays between year 11 and year 12. That's the time to do lots and lots of UCAT prep and do the you have to go if you go really hard there and you get to a score you're reasonably happy with, then year 12 can be a bit of fine tuning. I think increasingly people are starting mid year 11, which is reasonable because then by that holidays at the end of the year, you know all the question types, you know all the strategies. So realistically, I think use the holidays as much as you can, and some like starting in year 11 is probably good, whether that be in the midterm, like in the holidays after term two, term three. But the main thing is using that term four holidays to do as much as you can. For people who start in year 12, I feel like it's putting the odds a little bit against you, but you have to, as long as you can like get in lots of practice, then you'll still be okay. So, like, to be honest, most people, if they practice just hard for 2 or 3 months, you'll see like most of the benefit. But the idea here is we're trying to spread that out over a long period of time because it's hard to practice a really hard amount when you're also balancing year 12, etc. So one of the common questions people always ask is how do I balance my UCAT and year 12 studies? And I think your aim is to use that December to January period and sort of almost do half and half, but trying to get your UCAT score as high as possible, trying to be able to finish all the questions, know all the question types, know all the strategies, and feel confident with yourself and your UCAT at that point. If you already reached the sort of 80th or 90th percentile, I think you're going really well by that. And then the process of sort of February when school starts to June is really about balancing and maintenance, making fine tuning suggestions, trying to gradually go from 90 to 95 or 95 to 99. And I think the final like July is just when you do your sprint. Most people will just be practicing lots. That's generally around the term two holidays when most people will sit the test. So for most people, I'd say somewhere in the range of 8 to 12 months, but people are getting increasingly good at the test. People want to be increasingly more prepared. And so now there's a lot more people starting to prepare in year 10 or maybe early year 11 as well. What resources would I use? It's obviously a tricky one. I would start by doing the official question banks, not the full practice exams, but I would start with the official question banks to get a sense of what are the question types, and they're untimed, they're a bit easy. I think they're a reasonable place to start. Subsequent to that, after I've done all of those, I would do time practice on Medify or MedEntry. Generally, I think lots of people are using both. You can sort of start on one and then add the other in later. I would probably do Medify to start with and then think about MedEntry at a bit later of a stage. But if you flip the order or whichever one you go for, like this bit doesn't really matter. As long as you use one of them, I think you're okay. I don't know too many people who've got in without using one of these resources. So I think they should be the mainstay of your practice because they are probably they're quite similar to the actual UCAT. They're timed and they give you really good data regarding like your timing, your accuracy, and how you compare to other people. So that percentile data is really useful. Yes, they have their limitations. Like sometimes they're slightly off for this question type, or the logic is a bit different. Um, I found with the students I've had who've sat it, it's sort of like there's no clear winner, Metafile or mid-entry. It's sort of honestly split 50-50. So it doesn't really matter, but lots of people do use both. Would I get tutoring? I would probably, if it were me, I would probably do the UCAT question banks untimed, and then I would hopefully, after I know a little bit about each section, get tutoring. I probably would go for one-on-one because I find it's generally quicker and more effective than a group. But that's sort of person specific. Some people like, the group feel, or the affordability is practical for a group. But in my experience, the people um, like I think one-on-one is more likely to get you to your goals faster. But then people will often think maybe they'll do, a group in year 10 or 11 and then transition to one-on-one like just before they sit their test, or in the 6 months that they sit there, 6 months before they sit their test. And I think that's reasonable as well. I think it is something that you almost need at this stage, just because of the advantage it gives you relative to other people. So you have to think that, ideally, if 100 students sit the test, you want to be better than 95 of them, right? So you want to be in like the top 5%. And if 100 students sit the UCAT, let's say half of them get tutoring. If you don't have that, you're already at a disadvantage. I'm sure it's possible to get, a super high score with no tutoring at all. Definitely possible. But it's like saying, I want to become a like professional tennis player and I refuse to get a coach. Like, sure, you might be able to get there, but you're at a disadvantage compared to everyone else who has a coach. So I think it's helpful. I think UCAT is often neglected, especially when people like, you'll see people who like have tutors for all their subjects, but then don't have a tutor for the UCAT, when the UCAT is more important than all of those subjects combined, basically. So I think it's worthwhile investing in, like, yes, the costs add up because, the Metafile and entry have a cost, booking the exam has a cost, and then, getting tutoring has a cost. But ultimately, like, if this saves you like 1 or 2 years of your life, like, it's massively worth it. And like, med is no, like, getting into med is no sure path either. So it can take lots and lots of goes. And then if you have to keep reseating it, it's just easier. I think the easiest way is just to go straight in with a really high score. Easier said than done, but you want to put all the odds in your favor. It's hard if you compete at a disadvantage. How much time would I spend practicing? I think, let's say we imagine that, I do year 11, I finish my year 11 exams, and I decide that it's November, I want to start UCAT. I think over that holidays, that November to December period, I would be trying to do as much as possible. So if it was me, I would probably, well, it's probably, you can say November to January. I would probably be doing, let's say, the first half of my day can be UCAT. So that might be 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. That's a UCAT time. Now, I'm not doing UCAT 5 hours in a row, but that time is allocated to UCAT. Then from, let's say, 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. can be ATAR time, where I do sort of holiday homework. And then you can lengthen these and whatever you want to do sort of at night. Some people prefer working at night. I think I was probably like more of a 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. person back in year 12, but I would have basically the first half of my day is UCAT and the second half of the day is ATAR. So I get lots and lots of practice in. Then once school begins, it's a bit different, right? Because your time's sort of cut out. So most people, like, if you want to do an hour of UCAT before you go to school, like, that's great. I am not that kind of person. So for me, I would probably, you go to school, you come home, you have a snack. I'd probably try and make the first third of my time UCAT and then the last 2/3 into ATAR. So let's say I'm starting practice at 5. Maybe I do sort of 5 to 6:30 can be UCAT. Then you have, your dinner break, and then you're going maybe 7:30 to 9:30, or 7:30 to 10 can be ATAR, something like that. So the first third UCAT and the last 2/3 ATAR. I find UCAT is just a lot easier to practice earlier on. because, it's really, when you're fatiguing, it's really hard to have that same intensity during the questions. So basically, I would be doing lots and lots of practice, but this is over a shorter time period, right? This is November to July, basically. Obviously, in July, just do as much as possible. So that's sort of back to this. Some people do even more than that. But I would always be doing at least like 1 to 2 hours a day, I think, and a bit more on the weekends too. If you spread this out, then sure, you can do a bit less, but it sort of depends on your scores. So if you're already at the 95th percentile by January and you're feeling really happy, then sure, you can dial it back. You can focus on year 12. But if you're at the 50th percentile, you still need to like be doing lots of practice. How do you track my progress? So what I would do is before every practice session, I would have a goal for that session. So let's say, currently I do VR, I get 20 out of 44, I guess 5 questions, etc. Now, what I would do is next time before I practice, I'll do a sort of a time subtest, 44 questions, 22 minutes. And I'll say, my goal for this is just to get rid of those guesses. So the only thing I'm going to focus on here is skipping early and trying to keep every question between essentially 20 and 44, between 20 and 45 seconds. If I feel like there's probably no need to set a minimum, actually. Let's just keep every question below 45 seconds. And this is how I'm going to do this. So you have your goal, then you do your set. And then straight after the set, you review and you say, okay, how did I go matching that goal? And say like, oh, I have 5 questions here, which are above 45 seconds. Like, what went wrong? What's the reason behind that? And then I would document all that. So I'd have a log where every practice session goes that says, oh, today I did VR. I got 22 out of 44. It was a bit better, I guess 3, but I still had 4 questions, which were above 45 seconds. Okay. And then that's what I'd be monitoring. And I'd be trying to get that down to 0. Then I'd be getting this down to 0. And then the timing's fixed, and then I'd try and bring the accuracy up. So I'd be pretty diligent with just having a goal before each set and then documenting everything in a log as well. How do I stay motivated? This is, again, a very hard question. You have to have a reason for wanting to do this because this is going to be a significant time commitment and you're going to like potentially make some sacrifices to your ATAR if you commit to studying the UCAT. So you have to find some way of like having your own motivation. Like, do you just really want to do med, and is that enough? Like, do you actually realize that this is very important into like getting into med at the uni that you want? For me, like Monash is the only uni that gives undergraduate med, and you need to do the UCAT and like score highly to get an interview at Monash. So like, there's no other choice. Like, I have to do well at this. But ultimately, I just have a planner. I say, on Monday, I'm going to do my 2 sets of UCAT. Let's say, Monday you do a VR, DM, and then Tuesday, and you just alternate. And I just like ticking off the planner. And if I come home, have my snack, and then go straight into practice, it makes it a bit easier, and you don't like sort of procrastinate on things, I feel like. So that works for me, but whatever you find best helps you. Maybe you want to compare scores with friends or have a planner with friends, have an accountability partner, have a tutor for that, whatever helps. But yeah, generally just like keeping going for such a long period of time is tricky, which is why I'd probably just do like 7 months or 8 months and not like 2 years. But different people have different levels of preparedness. And some people are really on the ball. And I think those ones are sort of the ones who like really crack the top levels. But it depends on how you are as a person. So there's not a great answer I can give you for this, but try and work that out for yourself. I think just, writing about it, thinking about it, and figure out what like sort of stirs you up the most. But importantly, even when you don't feel like doing it, you still have to do it to be consistent with that practice. An even harder question, which I've written for myself, what if I'm not sure I want to do med? Because if you're thinking, oh yeah, med seems nice, but there's some other courses I'm interested in. Like, this is going to be a really hard pathway for you because basically you have to commit if you're going to do the UCAT. Because if 50 people commit, like you have to be in the top 5%. So if you don't commit and they do, it's going to be really, really hard to outcompete them. So you either have to say, I'm just going to commit even if I'm not sure, and I'll see where it goes. Or you say like, okay, like you can just do it for the experience, but you're almost certainly not going to like get the competitive score unless you're a genius. So there's nothing wrong with that. I think taking a bit more time to work out what you want to do, chatting to people, getting work experience, things like that. Lots of people get in through the postgrad route or in future years at uni, and they find that helpful. So you either commit or you delay, but in between is sort of that fuzzy area where I'm not sure that that's a nice place to be. But it's up to you as a person. If you're serious about getting a good score, putting in whether it be you have 1 month to go or 1 year to go, it's important with the UCAT to get yourself equipped with the best resources possible because you need to be in the top 5 to 10%. So the first thing you should do is click the link in the description. This will give you access to my inner circle where I provide exclusive resources. The first of these is free PDFs. I every week will send out a free PDF covering some of my best strategies in each section. And so these include things like question types and key factors that you can consider. Additionally, by clicking out the link in the description, we can have a free one-on-one call where I give you my approach to practicing the UCAT and give you some advice and some free mentorship on how you can do well with this test and what it's like once you're in med. Furthermore, subscribe to the channel. I'm aiming for this to be the biggest area of free UCAT resources available with videos, PDFs, and free calls. And so why not get your hands on these resources that have helped me and others get into med? Please do me a favor and share this with others if you found it helpful, and stay tuned for more videos on this channel. Thanks very much, guys. I'll see you next time.